passe. Oh, l'artiste. Super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! Vi i semifinale igjen!
Hello everyone and welcome to the Uniformed Handball Hour. It is our traditional start of season launch for the Bundesliga, which always takes place a few weeks into the season, so we can actually get a feel for what's happening and try not to fall into any traps. We're going to make any big predictions before actually seeing any of these teams in action. Björn Pazen is our big guest. He's joining us to chat about the contenders for this season's Bundesliga, and Alex here as well. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing great, and I'm in awe of the Bundesliga these days. It's really becoming it's adding and adding more drama each year, because I think that as the pressure builds, as the money builds, as the attention builds, you start having more dramatic things happen, like our Fuchs Berlin story, like players getting, like Lukowitska, getting really anxious, other teams already facing pressure, coaches under pressure. It's all so dramatic, like a TV show. And then you've got top quality handball with that. And it's fun to have a league like this growing and growing. And it's going to be fun chatting about it today.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's you and I are big football fans and Premier League fans, and it's always kind of had that comparison, German handball with English football. The fact that it has the strongest league in the world, although the national team doesn't always deliver, much to a lot of people's joy and hilarity. But the Bundesliga is truly becoming like the elite handball league. It has always been the top in terms of like the quality of the teams overall and how they perform in Europe, but it feels like it's reached a whole other level of attention and drama as well, and the way that it's packaged, the way that it's delivered now in Germany through Dyn, and the way that it's also now delivered worldwide as well, which with HBL TV. It makes it a lot easier for us to really get attached to it. It's not like, just following it through news and highlights. You can actually dive in and watch games all the time. And we see it in our Discord as well, with our Patreon subscribers, that people really are connected to the Bundesliga. So very fitting that we have this chat and dive into some of those hot topics.
Maybe before we dive in, we should say that this is a good time to get involved in our Patreon. The season's really kicking into gear. We have podcasts like this, the longer podcast that will likely be out kind of once every 2 weeks, something along those lines. But Patreon members do get a weekly, shorter podcast on everything going on, deep diving into some of the big games. You get access to our Discord server, which is hopping with activity. Have you ever sat there on your couch watching a game and wanted to just get out an opinion? Now that Twitter is a bit of a storm in there, the great place to go is into our Discord. You throw out an opinion, people will respond and get a good chat going on the big games, on the big news. It's a fun place to be, and throughout the season there'll be plenty of bonus podcasts. You can get insight into the interviews we're going to have going through the year. Tell us who you want to get on. Ask us questions directly. So just €3 a month to sign up for our lowest one. You can give us more if you want, but it helps us keep these along. And as always, thank you for everyone who has stuck with us on Patreon throughout the summer and building into the season. So sign up now.
Very well said, Alex. And with that, let's dive into our chat with Björn Pazen about the start of this Bundesliga season.
Welcome to the podcast. As always, when we talk about the Bundesliga and anything going on in German or world handball, it's Björn Pazen. How are you doing, Björn?
Hi, I'm fine. Hi, Alex. Hi, Chris. Nice to be with you again.
Well, great to have you on. We traditionally do this podcast a few weeks into the Bundesliga season and see if there's any red herrings. But maybe just starting off, anything interesting happening in Germany at the moment? Anything you can think of?
Yeah, I think the German champion in women's handball got insolvent. One of the most iconic faces got fired, but everything else is okay.
Yeah.
We have a women's world championship in November.
There's only one place to start, and we've talked about it in some detail in our previous podcasts, but Füchse Berlin's destruction, let's call it that, or the team that was put together, Bob Hanning, Jan Sievert and Stefan Kretschmar, unbelievable group that brought this Füchse Berlin a Bundesliga championship and was torn apart. So Bjorn, what happened?
The first interesting thing is I don't think that all those who listen to it know it. Was a first signal was an interview with the president, Frank Steffel, a former member of the German parliament who founded the new Füchse together with Hanning. He gave an interview for, I think it was a local newspaper in Berlin. And the question was, okay, when will you extend the contracts of coach Jaron Sievert and Sportvorstand or the sports director Stefan Kretschmar? Because they're running out end of the season. And he said, right when you're on the highlight, you have to think over for the future. And sometimes you have to make a change. And I said, okay, what does this mean? So, and then there were the discussions, when will these contracts be extended? And then Kretschmar said, okay, I want to have as early as possible, because if I shall compose a squad for 26, 27, I need to know if I'm still here and what's going on. And in the end, nobody thought about Sievert, because Sievert was the coach of the year in Germany. He steered them to the first German title. He steered them to the Champions League final. And nobody had any thoughts that they would get rid of Sievert. It was only a question of time when they extend the contract. Okay, back and forth. And then Kretschmar said on a Tuesday evening, he announced via Instagram, I will not extend my contract in Berlin. I will leave after the season. On the next Wednesday, Berlin announced that they with immediate effect fire Kretschmar and Sievert. And what I read about Sievert, what he wrote now is when he got the phone call of Bob Hanning to come, he was sure they only needed the signature on the new contract, because the new contract was there, only the signatures were missing. And then he went to the office and he got fired instead of a new contract. So what is the thing behind? And the thing behind is there are rumors. And the funny thing is it goes in both directions. There are rumors that the players wanted to get rid of Sievert, and especially Matthias Gitzel, who was coached by the new coach Nikolai Grickau at GOG, want to have Grickau as a coach. The players were immediately after the match against Magdeburg, which they lost, asked, and they said never ever. Sievert even said, I talked to all the players later, and I'm sure none of the players went to Bob Hanning or the leadership of the club to get rid of me. So, but then last weekend there was an interview with one of the main sponsors, who's also part of the Füchse company, and he said this is completely wrong. 70% of the players were against Sievert, and if they now say they had not been against Sievert, this is a lie, because they wanted to have Grickau. So you can choose now what you want to see. The thing is, they signed Grickau, and they signed Grickau in a double function. He's now a sports director, so Kretschmar's job, and coach, Sievert's job. And he started, exactly this was announced on the Thursday. On Friday, there was a press conference, and Saturday they had the big match broadcast live in German public TV, the rematch of the Champions League final, Füchse at home against Magdeburg. And at halftime, it was +9 or 10 for Magdeburg. And Berlin showed the worst performance since years. So at the end, it was a -7, which looks better than Berlin was. So, and then they said, okay, this was a kick in the ass in the end. So 4 days later, they play Champions League in Nantes, and they win 40-34 with a real strong second half. 3 more days later, they play in Gummersbach and lose by 5 goals. So the record of Grickau in Bundesliga is 2 matches, 2 defeats. And I don't know, in the last season, Berlin did not have 2 defeats in the whole season in a row. So the start was really weak, and everybody's guessing now how will it continue, because they were on a high flyer. They had the signings with Gröndal and Arinho. They liked it. The squad remained the same, and they really wanted to push. And then at the moment now, nobody knows what is going on.
With the news coming out, as you said, kind of 2 completely polarizing ideas of how this all came about. And I'm pretty sure that more information will come as the weeks and months go by, as different truths come out. Where do you think most people are leaning, like in the handball public in Germany? Which side of the story are people tending to believe more?
I would say in the end, the one they believe most is Jaron Siewert, because he didn't make any mistakes. So he only waited for his contract to come. He only waited for the signature of Hanning under new contract, which was supposed to be about 2 years. So I would say, and Siewert is quite, he's not extrovert in this case. So he's just giving some information on this Instagram channel, and that's all. The second is they believe Kretschmer. So the thing is that when you saw the match against Magdeburg, it was 2 days after they'd fired him. So half of the spectators, Max Schmelinghaller, were yelling against Hanning and had signs Kretsche with them, or thank you, Kretsche, something like this. So I would say the thing is that more people, definitely more people, I would say, in Germany believe the Siewert and Kretschmer side than the Hanning and the sponsor side. And I don't know what they think about the players, because the rumor was spread. The players were against the coach. The players said no. So you never know how the people would think about Matthias Gitzel and the players.
It feels like Jörn Siewert has gotten a lot of disrespect over his whole time in Füchse Berlin. He has guided this team to really, amazing highs. But you said, okay, he was German Coach of the Year, but it doesn't feel like anyone really looked at him as a true tactical genius. And he was let go so easily. Do you think this is, how much of an impact did Jörn Siewert have on this team going through and raising it himself, and what will be missing without him?
So I just go back a little bit, because what you have to think over is that Bob Hanning knew Siewert when he was a youth coach at Füchse. He sent Siewert to get the first experience in Bundesliga to his former club, Tusem Essen, and he called him back in 2020 when everybody said, okay, they signed the youngest coach ever. I think he was 26 when they signed him. And what is Füchse doing? But everybody said, okay, they have Hanning, they have Kretschmer, they have Zerbe. Okay, the coach is a coach, and in the end, some other people might also say something. But this changed rapidly, because Siewert had an impact on the team. And of course, Kretschmer signed Gitzel and Hanning signed the rest of the team. In the end, this mixture was good. So I talked to Jaron Siewert before the Champions League final for this In-Front documentary, and he said it's always the thrilling thing, that how to bring the team on and to find some things. So in the end, everybody was a little bit looking strange to Berlin when they signed Siewert, but with the time he got more respect. So I would not call it disrespect. So I have not talked, to be honest, I am far away from Berlin. I have not talked personally to any of the players, what they think about this. So I cannot say this from my personal point of view, but okay, there was a connection between Hanning and Krikau, maybe via Gitzel to get him. And in the end, the funny thing is that even Hanning said that the Siewert ran into the friendly fire, was a collateral damage that they had to fire him. This was what Hanning said.
That's such a wild comment.
Yes, and he said, sorry for Jaron, this was collateral damage. So in the end, the only thing is that from the point when Kretschmer announced not to continue, Hanning knew that he must fire him, And maybe he asked Krikau to become sports director only in the new season. And then Krikau said, no, I want to be the coach. So I don't know. I was not there. This is what they say in some media, that at a certain point, maybe Krikau got too mighty and he had the chance to get the double position because he didn't want to be the sports director, because he's more a coach.
Do you think that is showing in how they've played in these opening 2 weeks? I mean, it is hard to jump to too many conclusions, but the two Bundesliga defeats are quite strong, and particularly the loss against Gummersbach, who played really well on over the weekend as well. Would you put that down to the fact that, Krikau has come in having literally like shaken the core of this club, rocked the whole world of it, has been parachuted in as head coach? Also, Gietzel, if he is this defining factor in making it happen as well, that has to play some kind of like psychological factor on him as well. They had that second half against Nantes where they played just like old Berlin, but besides that, they've been a step out of place so far. Do you think that, the only explanation for that is that, they're all a little bit fucked in their mind with what has happened?
This is exactly the thing. So when you see there's such a big pressure on them now, they have to deliver, Krikau has to deliver, Hanning has to deliver. And all the people look on you and say, okay, if they fail again, they say, okay, what terrible mistake did the Füchse leadership, personal Bob Hanning and the rest of the company do? So in the end, I think this is the point that they are really shocked, the players. And when you hear the players, the fans chant, the Magdeburg fans in Berlin, they were chanting, without Sievert, you don't have a chance. So and this really, when the fans, your own fans, are booing against your director, and the opponent fans are singing for your ex-coach. So this is a real a crazy situation for the players.
Is Nikolai Krikau a good coach?
Yes.
Is he even good?
So the thing is that I talked to him personally 2 or 3 times. So you saw what he made with GOG. So all these team players from GOG, Püttlik, Gitzel, and all the others, they became stars. GOG became Danish champions against mighty Aalborg 2 times. Then he went to Flensburg, and he was quite successful on international ground, but he lost 2 Bundesliga matches, and sometimes it's enough. So, and they disagreed on some points between Lubomir Franjes, Holger Klandorf, and Krikau. And I was there in the same elevator when Lubomir Franjes received the news that they announced it, because it was on the day when there was this EHF gala for the annual Stars of the Season. What is the MVP gala? No, what is it called?
Excellence Awards.
The Excellence Awards in Vienna. And I was in the elevator with him. We were in the same hotel and received a phone call. And he turned around, and the only thing I heard is, not now. I'm at the gala in Vienna. And then we were having the first course, the first awards, the second course, and in between the second course and the dessert comes the news via internet that Flensburg just fired the coach. So this is, but the thing is that they were discussing in Flensburg because he had a good start, of course. And but then things were not running like they wanted to have it. So then there were many options for Krikau to get in. So Aalborg was looking for a new coach after they fired Machula. So a lot of people expected him to go to Aalborg. Then he was among the candidates to coach the Danish women's team. And so you never know how long he had in his mind to come back to Bundesliga and to a specific club. I don't know.
It's from my perspective, I think he is a good coach. He definitely is. And maybe his experience with a few technical directors in Glandorf and Branyers has made him go, okay, maybe I want to do both. I don't want someone be my own boss. So that could ideally, set him up for success. Again, I do think his time in Flensburg maybe it was a little bit abrupt, but he had a lot of time to get it right. His time in GOG, he had probably one of the most talented young teams of all time. We're talking Putlik, we're talking Giesel, we're talking Jurgensen, Madsen. All of them were in that squad. So it's a little bit of a combination. Obviously, he built them up, but there was a talented group there to drive him as well. So I'll be interested to see what happens here and how he handles the big personalities. Right now, Giesel's on the side. Everything's going well, but a few losses, which already are happening, is going to mount the pressure. And I have some doubts about Nikolai Kirkau at the very highest level, but we'll just have to see. Maybe he'll prove me completely wrong very quickly.
We promised ourselves before we weren't going to talk much or at all about Magdeburg because they're going perfectly fine. They're like a well-oiled machine. I'm sure we'll be talking about them later in the season. So we'll look at the two sides just below them in the league at the moment. Two of the other unbeaten sides in THW Kiel and Flensburg, and perhaps starting with Flensburg then, who Björn had a couple of draws to begin with. Now getting some victories on the board. It's almost become a bit of a running joke in every preseason that you have spoken to Sascha Stadt about, that they are favourites to win the league. Maybe people aren't so hot on them anymore, but what do you think of this Flensburg side and their start to the season?
So when I just compare Flensburg, Magdeburg, Füchse and Kiel, then I would say my two favorites are Magdeburg and Flensburg. I would even say before everything had happened in Berlin. So Flensburg, they of course they signed a highly interesting player with Marko Grigic, the top scorer of Bundesliga last season, 20 years old. He scored more goals than Gitzel, so that says it all. I think it's the only competition that Gitzel was not the top scorer last season. And yes, but Flensburg, they're interesting. The funny thing is they had their little scandal, and nobody, again, we were talking about media stories. We don't know behind it that after the second match, one of the new rivals, Luka Witzke, German international who came from Leipzig, wanted to leave the club. So, and both sides later on said, no, this was a misinterpretation of some media or whatever. And so Luka Witzke is also of course, he's not Diem Gottfriedson, he's Luka Witzke, but he can become, he has to adapt to the system which they play. And I would say with Ales Pajovic, it's not like this 100% Scandinavian style. It's a mix of Balkan and Scandinavian. In attack, definitely they want to run and gun. But in defense, they want to stronger. So they really want to avoid goals. And in the other system, it was if you concede 36, then you have to score 38. So I would say Flensburg is really strong. They made in the first match, it was the stupid mistake of the coach of Pajovic to lose this point because just to inform all the people who listened to it, he wanted to take a timeout some seconds before the end, but he had already taken 3 timeouts. This meant the ball position changed to Göppingen, and Göppingen scored and draw the match. So this was the coach's problem. The second one at home was a little bit closer. So, but then they won two times. Quite dominant, even against Hannover on Monday. It was a very dominant performance. So I believe that Flensburg, they can make it. If this they should not stop Grigic. So the only problem could be what they are doing with all the other left backs they have. So you have Grigic, he scores 8 goals in average now for Flensburg. You still have a Pütlik. You have more players. You have
Lasse Müller as well.
Lasse Müller, for example. So maybe they have the option. Well, okay, they have a line player, Golla and Jurgensen. Otherwise, you could say they play the option with 4 backcourt players and no line player. But it's a waste of resources when we not play with Golla and Jurgensen. Of course, on this position, you have to see how they may switch. But officially, Luka Witzke is more or less the playmaker. Pütlik can play in the center back. Grigic can play in the center back. But to be honest, this team will be among the top teams if they don't have too many injuries. But the main thing is always to integrate these new players. They lost Smits. They lost Mats Mensa, they lost Jim Gottfriedson, but it looks quite good at the moment, I would say.
I really agree, and I had the same thought as you going into the season that Flensburg are a force to be reckoned with, and we could have had this podcast after those first two draws. I would have kept the same opinion, and after those two wins, I'm sticking with it. They're looking really good. Gergic is just a revelation. I think we've seen a couple of Eisenach stars, really perform in Eisenach. I don't know what's in the water there. I don't know what the style is that makes these young players pop off, but maybe then struggle a little bit when they get their big move. Gergic has been a fish taken to water with Flensburg. He's somehow dethroned Putlik immediately as the best player. I do wonder how much it's Putlik kind of getting into the season, or I haven't watched that much of Flensburg. Have you seen a change to the way that Putlik plays so far that is more worrying for the rest of the season, or more just how it's shaping up right now?
So I would say until middle of October, it could be a problem. Then you have this constant play of Bundesliga and European League, and then you need all those players. So it might be that there could be a team for the European League and one team more or less for Bundesliga, like you had last year. Agus Pedersen, the left wing, was top scorer of Flensburg in the European League and almost did not play in the Bundesliga. So, but I don't think that Putlik want to accept the role that he's the European League guy and Gergic is the Bundesliga guy. So this is really the thing that, and you still have Lasse Möller. This is still the thing, how you make all three happy. So, and I think that Putlik wants to be in the same role as before he broke his arm in spring. So this will be interesting. Maybe they push themselves to the limit, and then this could even be better for Flensburg, or one is disappointed and trying to get out.
It's a good problem to have, I would say, if you're a Flensburg fan at the moment, because I think we've associated them more than not over the years with not having enough depth, and now suddenly they have too much depth. So I could definitely see one of Putlik or Muller going in as the second playmaker as well, and kind of getting court time in that position there. We'll move on to Kiel then. This is really dangerous because we're recording this just before they play their latest game. But at the moment, before they take on Hannover Bergdorf, 3 wins out of 3. 3 Player of the Match awards for Elias Ellison Ashapagatu. He's finally taken over the team, it seems. And our Kiel back, Björn.
Funny thing is, have they been gone? Yes, they have. So,
I think they've been gone.
They had been gone, yes. I was at the Super Cup at the match in Munich in this real great arena, SAP Garden, when Kiel faced Berlin. It was end of August, 1 week before the start of the league. And everybody was thinking about, how will they compensate the loss of their whole middle block with Winczek and Pekela, and how will these 2 new line players, Natsimovic and Lau, play? And then 10 minutes of the match, it was normal start, and then Skipagotu started playing, and it was like every action of him was a wow. He said he was... Of course, I have seen many good matches or even part of matches, but how he was functioning in this team, and he took all the responsibility as a scorer with assists and everything like this. I said, wow, if he can stand this level for the whole season, then Kiel is a real team to win the championship. And now you see 3 Bundesliga matches later.
I'll quote that, Björn. Kiel to win the championship.
Yes, of course. I will not get my fish roll maybe now at Kiel. No, but how he is leading this Kiel team is absolutely impressive. So then you have to see that with him at his side, it's not only about these new arrivals, it's that you have Reinkind and Billig back in the squad. So The backcourt access, including Duvniak, of course, is really strong, and Mats and. But how Skipagoto played was absolutely impressive. And then you have to see from January on, this will be their major problem, Chris. How will they give the playing time to Gonzalo Perez de Vargas and Andy Wolf? As I don't think they will put two goalkeepers on the court. So this will be the
But
interest.
put Andy Wolf on the line.
Yeah,
Or
maybe
in
this.
in the center block, you know.
Yeah. No, but the thing is that I would say no, but Kiel always says we want to be the champions, but in the last 2 years they were really far away from Berlin and from Magdeburg. Of course, they were hit hard by a lot of injuries, and but with the interesting fact is that Skipagoto. Normally, everybody in Bundesliga now would talk about Skipagoto if there was not this Berlin Berlin earthquake, or what you call it. He came out. He is the leader now.
How good of a season do Kiel need to have for Philipp Jicha to keep his job? So he has a contract until 2026. I don't know if you've heard any rumors of what is going to happen in the future, what direction Kiel are looking at, whether to extend him or looking around the handball world. But what will it take for Jicha to keep his job?
When you just compare, it was almost the same statements. I don't want to compare Kiel with Berlin, but it said in October we finally do the decision. So I know that in Kiel they're talking a long time with Shilagi and Jicha and all the others from this advisory board. I think they also have a lot to say in Kiel. So I think in the end, it's a matter of success. If in October they're still on the top of the league, they had a good start in European League, I would say they will go on with Jicha. There were rumors, what would Kiel without Jicha be? Would they be better or not? Nobody knows it. And who would be the option, and so on, so on. There were a lot of rumors in among the fans and in the media, but I would say the saying that he did not bring the players ahead. Now, when you see how Skipagoto plays, he brought him ahead. It only took a little bit longer. I like Philipp personally, and I think the problem of his time was now one season without a trophy, and the other season only the cup. And in Kiel, they want to have at least 2 or 3 trophies per year. It is always demanding for a coach to be there.
October is a very interesting timeline here. And I think it's so funny that the skipper may be the person that keeps Jicha around. Jicha, who kind of rejected him for about 2 years, never really gave him the freedom. Finally, has given him the freedom. And I really do think see glimpses of Faroe Islands, Skipagoto. It's just doing all these random, crazy shots, movements, ingenuity that I don't think we've seen him be allowed to do in Kiel, and that's now pushed them forward. It's a tough choice. I've been talking about Jicha as a coach for quite a while. Is there an obvious choice to move on from Jicha? 31-year-old coach of the year, that might change people's perspectives here. That would be an interesting move. Very different for Kiel, but I think they have a squad that's primed for something good in the coming years. They have a young squad right now that's kind of starting to hit their peak. And do you just want to repeat the same journey they've had with Jicha, or try to go for something fresh? I would lean towards fresh start.
When you just go back to August, it was, I think, the first time ever in the history of Kiel that they have 2 reigning under 19 world champions in their squad. Usually those players had not been educated in Kiel before, but with Pitti Petersen, the head of the youth program, they are bringing now, they had 2 players in the under 21, they have now 2 under 19 world champion show. So there's something growing in Kiel, also good for the identification. When you see now, I couldn't believe it when I read it, Rune Damke is the first ever Kiel-born captain of THW Kiel. Wow. So there's a lot of things going on with Kiel-based things. Maybe we see someone like Linus Kutz or others like in the footprints of Rune Damke.
Well, I mean, they've come to terms with the reality of their name maybe not being enough to attract players like it did in the past, where the financial power is maybe elsewhere. And I think a couple of years ago, the rest of the handball world kind of looked at that and said they can't attract the same players that they used to. So maybe they've thought about they need to develop from within or pick up those stars that they might not have picked up so early in the past.
But which club except West Brom has the financial power at the moment?
Good
Magdeburg,
question.
maybe.
We're not talking about them in this podcast. There's a couple of other teams that may be looking for a head coach in the coming months if things continue to go the way they are. And I think in particular about two of the surprise packages from last season in a positive way, which were MT Melsungen and Hannover Bergdorf, both of them with, to put it nicely, rocky starts to their campaigns with 3 and 2 points respectively.
The good thing is the first thing, always talking about firing or changing coaches. In this case, if you see the club structure, if you see the people who have something to say in Hannover and Melsungen, they're experienced and they know what they have reached last season. So I always say for Hannover, they had the spectator record broken by 3,000 in average more than the years before. The team is playing a top level handball, an attractive handball. They have young players with Fischer, Ustschins, and others more. So I don't think that there is any discussion at the moment about Christian Prokop in Hanover, even if they lose this match against Kiel tonight. But there's also no discussion on Roberto Garcia Perondo in Melsungen, because especially in Melsungen, you have to see they started at home against Rhein-Neckar Löwen with 7 players injured. So 7 players injured, plus all the changes in the squad they have, that they, for example, they lost Moraes, they lost Moravsky, they lost many more top players, the Iceland guy.
Jonsson, yeah.
Jonsson, yes. They signed some new players, some interesting players. They lost Barufet. We forgot Barufet. So there's a lot of change in the team. And if then 7 of the top 11 players or 12 players are injured, then you have you lose at home even against Rhein-Neckar Löwen, and then you have only 3 points after 4 matches. But I think they, in both clubs, they're not getting nervous or hectic, because I talked to Timo Kastening just 2 days ago for an interview before their top match with Füchse on Sunday, and he said, we are not performing on the same level. We're angry about us, but we always have to see the constellation we are in. So there is no discussion about the coach. We as the players, we have, it's hard for us because at a certain point now, the expectations in Melsungen and Hannover get bigger and bigger. So the Melsungen was until -3 rounds, they could become German champion. Hannover was among the top 3 for 80% of the season. So everybody thinks it just continues like this. And but they all have in mind that in Bundesliga you have 6 top teams, or 5 plus Gummersbach this season, 6 top teams which can become champion in the end, or which can fight for Champions League spot. And in this respect, even as there were different performing levels, so Hannover played up and down, and everything like this, then. You cannot talk about the coaches Brokop and Parondo right now.
My favorite story from this Melsungen injury disaster, and it's a real pity for them, because it's a club that overachieved so much, and they started the season with basically their whole backcourt injured. So much so that assistant coach Isaias Guardiola came on and played a couple of games from the backcourt, fresh off his American World Series championship win with the California Eagles. He came into the squad and didn't think he got a goal, but he got an assist in one of the games. That shows the desperation that Melsungen were at. They signed a couple of players in Tanzi to fill the gaps. But it's such a pity that you have a spell like this and the Bundesliga is so strong that your season is over. In the first could be over in the first quarter just because of an injury blight like that, and maybe we'll see Melsungen focusing on the cups, like maybe the German Cup and the European League, maybe their route to a trophy, which they still haven't achieved.
I can unveil the secret. The interview will not be published tomorrow. I asked Timo Kasten exactly the question like this: what is the goal of Melsungen in this season? And he said, we have two goals. The one is to reach both Final Four tournaments in German Cup and in European League. And then we want to become the best of the rest in Bundesliga. And best of the rest for him is, he said, Flensburg, Kiel, Magdeburg, and Berlin are a class of their own. And then there's a little trophy for the best of the rest, which finished fifth.
And that's very much still possible, I would say.
Yes.
That's such a lot of teams are going to be losing points against each other over the course of this season. But I mean, it's not the first time. We're thinking springtime earlier this year, and last season they were also going through an injury crisis. It's not new for this team.
To be honest, most of them are still injured. Yeah. Aaron Mensing is still out. Nebojša Simic is out. Damul is out. So there are three players who are injured for more than half a year. Especially, of course, goalkeeper Nebojša Simic. He's missing. They signed the young Hungarian goalkeeper from West Brom, who was under 21 silver medalist in 23. But in the end, those players are not again injured, but still injured.
Yeah, we're going to have one hell of a squad when they all come back, if they all come back.
Yeah.
Yes, 6 backcourt players injured at the moment. Real disaster to them. I do want to ask about Hanover as well. Delve into Renners Uschens a little bit. It seems like, we had this big burst onto the scene, World Championships, Olympics. He looked destined to be the next big star for Germany and in World Handball. And we've seen his form tail off at the end of last season. Those inefficient games where he's, going 4 from 9, 4 from 11 type of games starting to pop up more and more. And this season, again, that's been his form. Can you give a bit of insight of what's going on there? Is it just he came in too hot and we shouldn't expect the world from a young guy like that?
The thing is that after those Olympic Games, he played in Paris and Lille. I think his adrenaline was on 187%, and he was flying through the start of the season exactly on those wings. So when you see he played the same in September, October, November, but then I would say in December, he was running out of power. So it started like this, and you didn't see that much in Hanover, but with the national team in January at the World Championship, he was out of power. And it was really, I think he was, his whole body was now saying it was too much, because you have to see in 2023 he was the leader of the pack in the under 21 World Championship. In 24 he was the Olympic Games. So in the end he played straight from August 22 until January 25 without any break longer than 5 days. So, and even a young player, you lose your power, and then he lost his confidence. And I had thought that with a summer break like this, because he said in the last there was this last national team match in May, and he said, "Oh, I'm looking so much forward to this summer. No handball for 3 weeks and things like this. I can recover. I get my head free, everything like this." So I had thought that this break would help him to come back to the old shape. We are talking only about Bundesliga. They easily made it to group phase of European League, beating Alkaloid. And I still say that Uschins, the funny thing is that they need this couple, Uschins and Fischer, to be on top again, and they will return. I'm absolutely sure they will return. But at a certain point, of course, he asks himself, what is going wrong? I could relax now. I could recover. So I would say maybe when we record this interview a little bit longer, he already scored 4 goals against Kiel. So we don't know. But I'm absolutely sure that he will come back again. And then when you see this backcourt for Germany with the home world championship in 2027 with Julian Köster, with Marko Gilgic, and with Renas Uščins, they're an average of 22 years at the moment. We can expect a lot of them. Oh, we forgot Knorr. No, I don't.
Well, I was gonna. I was just wondering if you thought Knorr was a little too old now.
Oh,
for
yeah,
that.
he's already 25. Yes,
Exactly. You have to get head off soon because it's Champions League evening, which you'll be covering. We talked about last season's surprise packages. Are there teams that you consider could be this season's version of Hanover and Melsungen? And why is it Rhein-Neckar Leuven and Gummersbach?
So good thing. One of them I definitely had. The other, you're absolutely right. So starting with Gummersbach, they just continue. So I hope for them. You had a long injury break with Köster and Schludroff. They're young players. So I would say Gudjon Vajo Sigurdsson is a great coach, and he can continue his work. And in the last season, maybe it was too much for this newly formed team to have the double playing with European League and Bundesliga. If they only played Bundesliga, they might be again qualified for the European League. So maybe this is exactly the point that Hannover had last season. They only could focus on Bundesliga and of course on German Cup. But Hannover did not play European League this year, and they could focus. They could prepare 1 week for the next Bundesliga match. And Gummersbach was flying from Iceland to Slovakia and everything like this. So maybe this was the advantage of Hannover, but definitely this year that Gummersbach is really on a high flyer as a team. So, and they can exactly play the same role that Hannover and Melsungen had. With Rhein-Neckar Löwen, for me, it comes completely surprising when you see that, especially at what time key players left. It was obvious that Juri Knorr will leave. It was obvious that Lindenkrone will leave. This will leave. But then in the middle of the preparation, you lose Michael Appelgren and Ivan Martinovic. So your second best goalkeeper and your best scorer. And you get someone you don't know from from West Brom. They've never played in Leuven. So you have Mike Jensen and you have Lucas Sandell. If you start with 0 points from 4 matches, everybody would say, okay, it's impossible to do it. But there you see the starting match, how they win in Melsungen. And from that moment on, they really played strong. They lost at Hamburg, which they lost sometimes also in the last season. But I think the impact of Mike Machulla is already there. And in contrast to other years, they can play without pressure because nobody expected anything of them with this, I think, 10 left, 10 come squad change. And this is the good thing, that they can play without this pressure. Maybe even the pressure that Juri Knorr is not there, because there was a lot of pressure always on Knorr, that everybody wanted to see him as the superstar and so on. So, and of course, Martinovic was a top scorer, but when you talk with people in Germany, name one Löwen player of the last season, they name Juri Knorr and maybe David Speth. David Speth now extended his contract until 2029, so they have this life insurance in between the posts. So, and this means, I would say, without this pressure, that can happen. But the thing is that I don't know if the Löwen squad compared to others is wide enough. But also, like Gummersbach, they don't have this double competition with the European League. They only play Bundesliga. They only play German Cup. So this is maybe one thing. If you do not have to see, you have 6 group matches, then 4 main round matches, the 10 matches more between October and March. This can affect your level you play, especially when you talk about injuries.
Yeah, this is a classic story with this podcast, and we always fall into it. I still remember the honey trap of Leipzig winning their first 4 games, and me, Chris, and Brian, I think, asked you on this podcast, are they going to win the league? So that is, we always have to be very careful about the results of the first couple of games. And for me, I think Rhein-Neckar Leuven will have a nice season, but are probably, as you say, Björn, they just don't have the right squad. When you look at their backcourt, it's really funny. It's like they have a bunch of players that are the third or fourth best backcourt player on a very good team. So, the likes of Sandell, he'll be like the third backcourt player. Bayern's was, he's a good one, but he's not going to be your star. Martin Larsson, Thrasterson, Heyman, they're just kind of like, oh, these are good guys to plug into beside your two stars. And that's kind of the whole.
But some of them will become stars, Was it Thrasterson has 4 times as many assists as turnovers so far at the start of the season, Danny Bynes banging in the goals. It could be their season to shine. And when you have a goalkeeper like Spaeth behind them, then
I always said this Thrasterson, even if he had not have this 1.5-year injury break at Kielce, I saw him personally at the under-19 European Championship in Koprivnica when he was, I think, in the end part of the All-Star team. I said, wow. And Olafur Stefansson was the assistant coach. I said, this guy can be, and he said, if he's not getting injured in the next 3 years, he will be a top star. So what happened in Kielce, he got injured. So I think he didn't fit in the playing system at Bucharest that much, but now he can. Mahula plays more Scandinavian than Krikau, I would say. So this fast play with Thrasterson and what I always say, more or less he played in defense, Halil Yaganyats. I really want to see him as the backcourt shooter. If he and Hyman are not injured, then the shots at the goal are added. It's 250 kilometers, both shots at the same time.
It's true. It's a box of young broken toys as well. This Rhein-Neckar loan team, Jagannats, Heyman.
It's every coach's dream, I'd say. It's like if I could just get them all to work.
One season without injury.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hopefully they have a really good fitness trainer to get them back up to pace. So maybe wrapping up our big overview. 2 sentences on Magdeburg, Björn.
Go.
2 sentences of Magdeburg. The contrast to the previous season is they can start the season with 6 top fit players which had been out last season. The only one who's still missing is Musche. Then the thing is that I thought, okay, let's see what happens on the goalkeeper position. As we know, Portner is not allowed to play until December. So, and then they said, okay, we do the transfer with the Matej Mandic. I don't know how often you see Matej Mandic, but check out the length of his arms. I think if he stands in the middle of the goal, he touches both posts already. He's such long arms, but he doesn't play anymore because at the moment Hernandez is flying over it. So Hernandez, after announcing that he will leave the club at the end of the season, he's flying there. And again, it happened the same like when Portner was suspended for the first time. He's taken the 100% responsibility. Then you see Omar Ingi Magnusson, who's always among the top scorers, after 4 matches is on 38 goals from 43 shots, which means 88% efficiency. This is incredible.
Magdeburg don't miss shots. That's that's easy. I don't know how they figure it out, but it's easy.
To be honest, if no major injuries occur, it will be thrilling to see which team shall stop them this year. Because with the squad without, we see how long all these players who got injured at Olympic Games, how long they were missing. They came back in November, in December. They had a shitty start in the Champions League. Nobody said, okay, they can even go to Cologne. There were even some people were saying they will miss the playoffs. So, and then with a full team, and to be honest, on this motivation of winning 39-32 in Berlin, I think they could fly back to Magdeburg, this 140 kilometers. They didn't have to take the bus because they were just on cloud 9, so they could go there. So with the motivation of a match like this, a strong performance also on the Champions League against PSG, they started well. They will now in October, they earn $400,000, maybe more in the at the Club World Championship, the IHF Super Club in Egypt. So still, if a major player gets injured, they can make a buyout from another club. So this is what they did perfectly in the last years to win those trophies where you can earn some money with.
That was basically instead of asking who's going to be champion. So then who gets that second Champions League spot, and maybe who gets relegated as well?
I would say the two teams which just promoted always have the lowest chances to stand in the league. And when you now say Minden has already 3 points, Bergisch HC is on 0 points, I had expected the other way around because I thought that Bergisch HC has the better squad. So, and also in this respect, we have to see what is going on in Leipzig. So Leipzig is going down since last winter. But then we're talking maybe about 3 Champions League spots as their kind of playing system change might be. With 24 teams, Germany gets a third spot.
Oh,
Yeah.
You think that's going to happen next season already?
Yes.
is this
Is that going to be confirmed over the weekend?
No, the thing is, will not be confirmed over the weekend. It's just saying on this weekend the new executive committee will be voted or elected in Austria. And Michael Wiederer said in an interview that in the first meeting of this executive committee, they have to decide on different concepts for the Champions League. Maybe the men's Champions League. So we're talking about it remains the same. But what I heard is there are 3 or 4 options, and all have 24 teams with a different end. If 12 teams are out after the first round or whatever, different ways, but more or less 75% of the option on this table will be Champions League with 24 teams. And so then if we have 3, I would go for Magdeburg, Flensburg, and still Füchse. And if we have 2, I go for Magdeburg and Flensburg. And the thing is, I say Magdeburg is becoming coach now. Bernhard Wiegert will say, thanks, Björn, you know everything. But at the end of the season, we're sitting there and see how did Gogi Sigurdsson make it to bring Gummersbach to the trophy? So I don't know. So I would if we have this famous word of power ranking, I would say Magdeburg 1. Flensburg 2, and still Füchse and Kiel on 3 and 4. But in between is Gummersbach, but for a whole season, they cannot stay in between.
Oh, that does make it more interesting. Chris, what's your top 3 then?
My top 3. I was thinking now, if there is a third Champions League spot, is that the thing that saves Philipp Piecha? Is that, another third place finish? But I will say Magdeburg 1. I think Berlin will still battle their way up into second place and Flensburg third. I think it will even out with Berlin. It's a nightmarish start. They will have chances later in the season to make up for those lost points. Maybe not to the extent of winning the league, but for second place. And you, Alex?
Magdeburg. The question should really be, are they going to have the perfect season, which is starting to float around? I don't think so. I think they'll get a loss this season somehow. I do like Flensburg, and I've thought about that for a while. I think they land in second place, distant to Magdeburg, and they'll Füchse behind them. Or will I throw in Kiel? You know what? I'll put in Kiel in third, getting a Champions League, and the skipper as the MVP of the season. No, that's too much. It's too much. But let's put Kiel in third.
Lovely. Björn, thank you so much for your time. Pleasure.
Great with you.
As always. And we'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the Champions League games.
Okay. Ciao. See you.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you to Björn. Great chat as always. And there we have our predictions as well. Very unanimous about Magdeburg, which is got an ominous feeling for me as someone who's over the years always touted them to win, but they have been phenomenal so far. And I think the fact that Björn ended up talking for 2 minutes rather than 2 sentences about them as the final word says it all. Any of the things that he brought up that surprised you in that chat, Alex, or anything stand out?
I think his point about Kiel being a championship contender, but then also putting them in fourth place is an interesting one. I don't think there's any team that is a championship contender apart from Magdeburg. They're just too good, and it's going to take a lot to derail them. I want to start making bets of how many games in a row they're going to win. It might be close to a perfect season, but I think right now they've won their first 5 games of the season across Bundesliga and Champions League. I think we can get to 30 across the board before they lose a game.
My God. Well, that's the thing about them, though. Every single season, they put a run of like 18 to 24 games unbeaten together. Like, regardless of how well or bad it's going, the last 3-4 seasons, even when they weren't winning the league, they were coming up with those big runs of victories. So that doesn't surprise me. But the fact that it could come like right from the beginning and they build on something like that, that could be quite special indeed. I mean, as we're recording now, they're facing Barca away. So there's maybe a hope to get some confidence knocked out of them, but I also have the feeling like they're going to win this one by 3 or 4 goals as well away from home, which would be like the extraordinary any other time, but now just feels like actually they're the favourites against Barca the way they look at the moment.
Yeah, agree. And in my run prediction, I knew they were facing Barca as we're talking, and that's how confident I am. And when people are listening to this, they're going to still be on this run. Yeah, so exciting season ahead. Thank you for listening. Thank you for following us. Join us on Patreon. And we're going to have a lot of fun this season. Goodbye.